Things can change a lot in 24 hours. Maybe like 80, 90 handles lower. The S&P by the dippers. They came in early. It was choppy, but decisive move late in the day. Get back over 5,900. Getting a little nervous now. You know why? Because we have PPI at 835 or 830. Blue Putnam at 835 to break it down. Got a lot of strange things going on in the markets. That's what we're going to talk about today on Pre-Market Prep.
The volatility right now is really incredible.
Wow, look at that consolidation on the upper right chart.
You know what we've seen this earnings season? Some of these expected moves get even more violent. This is why I have switched my strategy 10 years ago. And if you're chasing, you're in trouble.
All right, good morning, traders and investors. Yes, follow through on that rally, up 13 handles at 58.87.50. Make that 12 handles there. Moving pretty quickly. The buck pulling back 34 cents after getting over 110. That's at 109.47. TLT hanging in there at the bottom, 85.30. USO backing off just a tad after a nice run, down 32 cents, 81.91. GLD in the green, up 53 cents, 246.27. SLV joining in more on a percentage basis, up 16 cents at 27.12. Bitcoin futures, they're bouncing off that 90K level like it wants to go back to 100K. That's up $2,640 at 96,545. Let me remove my charts here. Let's bring on Triple D. We'll bring on Christian Fromhertz. And folks, gentlemen, PPI today.
Big number. 830, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the crossroads here. It was a nice bounce yesterday. Kind of felt like it was going to bounce. That's why I tweeted out, I think we closed green when we were down yesterday morning. I felt like it was going to be a turnaround. It took a while.
By the way.
It took a while, and then they started finally buying, and it was really, to Christian's point earlier, I was talking with him, and he can bring this up. It was really like the value trade that really picked us up, because we had a lot of stocks down significantly, a lot of tech stocks down significantly, and they all came up too. But the value trade, the commodity trade, materials trade really helped out yesterday. So, like, give us some examples, Christian, just some stocks that were really moving.
Well, by the way, that was a great call that you made yesterday. You know, you were really thinking that things were going to flip around, because I think things were, I don't know where the S&P was then, but I think it was down in the neighborhood of down about like 0.5%. So
yeah, a little bit more actually. We were down not too far from the lows. It just felt like, I don't know, I felt like we were oversold. And a lot of times what we do see is buyers start to emerge after the opening flush. And we kind of had that. Then we had a little bit of pullback again. And then the buyers started coming in, for the majority of the day. But again, it was certain stocks that really let us out of it. The question is, there's going to be those stocks lead us out of it again. We'll find out. But yeah, give us some of those names, Christian, that were really moving yesterday.
Yeah, and just like in terms of sectors, energy was on fire, and it's been on fire. So energy turned in another strong day, and just a lot of names were finally kind of going in this, because it had been energy stocks, but it had been kind of a little bit selective. Yesterday was more of a bit of everything. But that's been the story this year, as energy's been outperforming. What I liked was like some of the industrial names finally starting to kind of go, and that had a really nice reversal. If you look at XLI, that had a nice bullish engulfing candle for the day. So nice to see something like that. I started to see, there's a couple of names that got upgrades too, like just beaten up names like Lockheed Martin, NOC, sticking with the just a lot of names and commodities. CF Industries, so these are agriculture names. So again, like a lot of names that have just been really beaten up. And we certainly have talked about how the breadth has been so poor, and all these value names have been kind of left for dead to some extent. But they really, I just saw these sharp moves yesterday, and I've got my eye on a couple things like this morning. a name like Allison Transmissions, which had strong. Sorry, I'm going. I don't want to
Yeah,
go.
but no, go.
Allison Transmissions. You're gonna have to give me AT.
ALSN. And again, like this is just for my strong earnings list, like names that had good
Okay.
earnings. The earnings gap is filled.
Nice.
So
Yep.
these, and these names, like I kind of just watched some of these names because they had this strong earnings move and then they really struggled a little bit. They couldn't really take out the highs and then have kind of come back in. So I like names that when you know that they had strong earnings and then they give back the whole gap, to me is like somewhat attractive, and just kind of keeping my eyes open to something other than tech. Like I know that, tech for a while led us in consumer discretionary, but, maybe it's something else that can kind of get us going, similar to like, what we've seen in energy, maybe that moving over. Like APD got an upgrade this morning. That's Air Products.
Yeah.
Air Products and Chemicals, right? So starting to kind of just turn back up. I saw a lot of these names.
Staying with that theme,
Yep.
Steel getting off the mat here. Nucor and Cleveland Cliffs talking about teaming up for Steel again. So man, that it keeps coming down. 30 seems to be level that just got a nice bounce. We'll see what happens with that. So there you get the Steel. Also staying with the value theme. And you did have news on it, UNH, the news. So your laggards,
Yeah.
there.
What
Yep,
can I mention? Just
2024.
one more name before we move on to the next.
Sure.
Check out the and it was mentioned in the chat too. Check out Deere. Deere. Look at the move in Deere yesterday.
Wow.
And that's another one too, where
I think there's another trade we're missing here though too, is like Caterpillar as well. You start thinking about the wildfires, and they got a lot of rebuilding that's going to happen here. I mean, I think a little bit of this, and Home Depot, Lowe's, we've talked about them as well, and they haven't really gone off the mat, but some of this could have a little bit to do with them too. But again, the value trade has really come back into favor to a certain extent. It really was in favor this year, and then we had the whoosh in the market, and they kind of took down all the names. But the value stocks are still holding up much better than some of the tech darlings, which are very crowded. I mean, the tech trade just so crowded from last year, and that's all they talk about on social media. My portfolio is full of tech stocks too. Everybody's is, but it's really crowded trade. And to the point that Christian's making, a lot of these stocks have just been thrown out for dead. Even like a Nucor, we talked about that, and I'm in it and I'm buried in it. But I mean, you've got stocks now, a lot of companies trading with P's 10, 11, 12. If the value trade comes back into favor, and it's still an if, it's back into favor maybe for a few days and never seems to last. There are a lot of like value stocks that are historically cheap relative to themselves, where, you talk about tech being relatively expensive to itself. The value names are relatively cheap, a lot of them relative to themselves. So it's something to consider that if the rotation continues, we talk about an expensive market. A lot of other companies, in the value area are not that expensive.
All right. I guess we could throw KB Homes in here. Just get this one earnings report out of the way. KB
There's a
Homes.
value stock too.
I know. KB Homes, a big mover. This is a real big move for this. KB Homes comes out, nice beat, 252 versus 239. Slight beat on sales too. A little bit of a little bit of guidance there that's better than expected. This is a very, very big move in a stock. Not a bad day to report. Look, you make a new low of the move. I just have to say, this whole $70 area, we did sneak over 71 in the pre-market. What is this high? Wow, all the way back up here. Folks, just note, December 18th, this traded 71. Did trade over it in the pre-market, but nice pop, KB Homes.
Continuing, like all the home builders, if you want to talk them,
Sure.
they've all been beaten. Look at Lennar. I mean, they really haven't even reported much bad earnings. You'd think this company is in shambles from a fundamentals perspective after the 2-month move that it's had. But this is just showing you how much they've been selling everything to buy tech. That's what they were doing in November and December. Sell it all, especially December. Sell everything that isn't tech and buy just buy tech. I mean, Lennar went from $190 in October to $130. You're talking about a $60 fall on $190 stock. It's
Wow.
a 30% fall. I'll tell you right now, the earnings didn't go down 30% there. So, I mean, you're looking, it's getting to a point like the home builders start to look attractive, especially considering the wildfires. Not that, there's massive amounts of homes being built because these are huge mansions, but who's the higher end home builders, chat? I forget which ones. There's a couple that are higher end.
Oh,
but again, when you're building multi-million-dollar homes, it's probably custom build, so it's probably not these corporate or KB Homes going in there and doing those homes. So I mean, maybe I'm reaching there, but I just think there's some value there. I do think there's some value there.
There's Tri-Point Homes. I think that this one, I remember. I think they're out west. I think they're primarily in the California market. And I think they do higher end. Just to hope people have the insurance money to pay for this.
Well, that's the wild card too.
Yeah.
How's Mercury doing this morning? Down a little bit.
Up
been holding on.
Oh, it's been but it made a new low of the move yesterday. But I mean, what's been plaguing these housing stocks is we were supposed to have 6 interest rate cuts this year, and now we might not get any. So that's been weighing. Even though the Fed pivot turned out not to be a pivot, I think that's really been weighing on these housing stocks as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just lots of the interest rates has been weighing on them the most. There's no doubt TLT has been weighing on them the most. And a real value turnaround would be if the TLT actually starts rallying. I mean, today we're going to get some information here that's going to affect all these names. So it's hard to really call these stocks from a technical basis here 18 minutes before getting, macro news, economic data that's going to move the value names more than anything. So, I mean, PPI comes in a little bit hot. It isn't going to be good for any of these names. Comes in a little cool, though. Maybe that rally continues.
Leaking a little bit here in the S&P. I think people are getting a little bit, big rally yesterday, over 100-point rally off that low. So they're like, I don't know if I'm gonna sit through this number.
I wanted to talk to quantum stocks.
Okay.
I want to bring them up because this is one of the biggest, this is one of the most violent bubble pops that I've ever seen. It's just so quick. Bring up a stock like RGTI. The stock 4 days ago, 4 trading days ago, was $20. It's $6 here this morning. Not saying, came from $1. So, I mean, there's still room to the downside here. But this is your definition of going from overbought to oversold in like a snap of a fingers. Obviously, we know Jensen Huang and video commentary was the catalyst, but $5 always seems to be a bounce spot. And I mean, as some of these stocks approach, those $5 whole numbers. Last night, RGTI was down at $5.60. I bought some last night. I've already flipped out of it on day trade. It was a good one. I got like 40 cents on it or something. I'm looking back in the 5 handle to buy these things like the RGTI. So I'm actually not long-term investing, but for a trade. I think some of these things are definitely oversold. IONQ went from 50 to $27. QBTS $10 to $3. What are the other ones, chat? Let me write them all down here.
Christian,
QUBT.
Yeah, Christian's good on these. Dennis, I'll just say that, and I'm really glad you gave your time frame on it, right? A trade here. This is not things that you're, battening down the hatches and looking for like a 5 or 10-year move. But I think that's a great identification. I don't know if you looked at the chart at all, but look at all these lows at 6. I mean,
RGTI.
right? Yeah, RGTI. Although, I mean, you would think, on the dailies, I don't know why they were hitting that in the after hours like that. Wow, they hit it down to 550. Man, after that kind of daily support, I don't care how far you've fallen, because even people that aren't looking to go long, what if you caught this thing short? I mean, what are you going to wait for? $4, $5? I mean,
a lot of people aren't catching these things shorts, and I don't even know if the borrow's there, but it's not cheap either. So I don't think The one thing to consider, I know you, because you think like a pro, you always think like, a floor trader where everybody's buying and short, and bright trading, we're shorting just as much we're buying. Majority of traders that are in here not short these stocks. I mean, these, are long only retail traders. All of them are Robinhood traders. They can't even short stocks over there.
Okay.
So that's why I kind of don't think who's caught short here very often, because it's just not the market where there's just a lot of people caught short. It's people were caught long and
That's a better term.
severely punished for it. The Jensen Huang, people buying the initial dip, which is why I tweeted out when it started going down. I was like, don't be early on these things because there's a lot of room to the downside. I'm going to try to be a hero. You're right. This call me Dennis going to try to be a hero. I'm going to try to be the hero trade and say, I'm going to try RGTI in the 5s. I really like that Kramer last night was saying, it's not too late to sell these things. You can sell these things. So I love that too, because, again, Kramer's been he's been saying that last couple days on him, but he's really preaching it last night. Like, it's over 30 years. It's over. I really like when he gets that bearish, because it might be mentality on other people as well. Like, he's kind of like the herd. So I do think RGTI in the 5s could get a bounce. Again, just as a trade, it could go down 4-3 and stop me out. But I think if I'm setting it up, if I was to get this at, what's last night low on RGTI?
550. I don't think you're going to see that today. I don't think you're going to.
I think you get it in the 5s. You take a shot.
I don't know.
If it starts going through 5, then you maybe got to say you're out. But you'll kind of want immediate gratification here too. Like, if I'm picking this up, I want to see, they were bouncing last night. I don't want to see more sellers coming in here and these things just start crashing and burning again. So on these, hero trades, when you're really calling your spot, you almost need immediate gratification, meaning you got to see it start going your direction right away. It kind of started from last night. Just trying to build a rally. Christian, what are your thoughts here? I mean, you've been following this sector.
I like what you like. So RGTI, like, okay, $5-6 stock, like the most you could lose is 5 or 6. Like, that's your stop. So that's a nice way to kind of think about it. I like that strategy, because as long as you have that frame of mind that you're getting it where it's at a significant move down from where it was like a week ago. I'm also looking at IONQ. This one's a higher price stock, so you can't like do the same, thought process of like, hey, it's $5, So this one, I'm actually waiting for it to come back up. And I'm watching right around like the $30 level for IONQ. Another one, where did this thing top out? Like around $50. Even better, like 30 would be the first level, and then that 50-day moving average of like 32.60 would be something too. But yeah, I mean, like I like that. Where you're talking about like people now talking about like Kramer talking now about still selling it and so forth. I mean, these things have gone down significantly. I think it will take some time for them to come back up, but RGTI $5, like, you can kind of sit and be patient with something like that.
Yeah,
Dennis,
I think if you're
that
selling
was
today, I think you're late.
I think it was 13 when you tweeted that out. 12.5 or 13.
RGTI?
When it was last week.
Oh no, God no, Joel. It was like 18. It was
really?
It was right after the commentary. It was down like $1 or $2 from the 20. Like, you won't see it on the gap. It was that after hours though when I saw, oh my gosh, Jensen Huang just said 30 years out. I'm like, that is bad. That's when Christian went short.
Oh,
like,
that's
Christian
right.
turned
That's
around
right.
and had the short trade off of that.
Yep.
Like, I mean, that was the play. So it was in the gap here because it started to come down in that night.
Right here.
But they were only down 5-6%. And I'm like, I tweeted out because I didn't want any of my followers to get burned. And I'm like, don't be early here. I'm like, this is not good news. So because people naturally think, oh, these things are hot, it's down 5%, it's going to go right back up. That was they call it in Canada, the TSN's the big sports network there, and they always say of the game, the TSN turning point. That was the TSN turning point for quantum stocks. Don't think when I'm calling RGTI to bounce, I'm not calling it to go back to 20, folks. That ship has sailed. It may never see $20 again. Sorry, may never. But could go from $5.50, $6 to $8. Well, that'd be a pretty damn good day trade. So I think that's the possibility here. RGTI trying to show a little bit of life this morning.
All right, and I just put up QUBT, same kind, cut through that 50%. Once again, man, they like these things at $6. Look at this one, a couple lows in the $6 area. Didn't quite get there yesterday. Let's look at QBTS. That is low. Couple, I mean, there's areas of support in here. They're definitely, this is where a lot of these stocks launched from. This one is closer to the 270. Just under $4. So same. I mean, you're coming to areas of support that the good. You don't want to see it just like rocket out of there. Maybe get a couple days of sustained bids at these levels, and then you get a nice rally. Bears are they're clawing here a little bit. We are actually at the lows of the pre-market session here.
Yeah, we're
People,
leaking.
yeah, we're leaking. We
Just
are
looking at,
leaking.
overall, I'll just look at the S&P here and just try to get the pockets of, it's pretty much green across the board. Meta is very weak because of commentary that was from last night saying that Musk, that the Chinese may sell TikTok to Musk. So
Yeah, I
that was,
saw that.
just rumors. That was rumors last night. Again, just rumors as Musk's buying TikTok, after he got burned so much. US TikTok, they're talking. US
Mhm.
TikTok. So that's why Meta, if you're wondering why Meta is down here this morning, that is why. Obviously, there's hopes from Meta shareholders that TikTok's going to get banned. Everybody's going to have to go and use Meta again, Instagram and everything else. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's not going to get banned. I think it will get sold or somebody or something else. And I don't even think Trump is as concerned as the last administration is with this. So, I mean, that's a consideration here as well. But right now, Meta's trading down because of that.
Okay. And we got a Tesla that got a little pump after hours here, Dennis. Nice move. Just I saw a lot of times you can tell. Like I love to watch the prints. Like right when major liquidity goes off, and there's like some kind because it just that exploded here right at 4 o'clock. Traded up to 414.55. I'm still looking at this whole 416 area. I talked about that level on January 2nd because we had multiple lows there. And then you broke down. You've tried to get above it a couple times, but we'll keep an eye on that and see if Tesla traded up $5. And also, I saw something about shareholders want um, Zuck to put all their cash into Bitcoin. $72. I saw that. I don't know but definitely Meta and then Google's trading in the red here slightly, 28
That's
cents.
all off that TikTok rumors, I think.
TikTok stuff. Okay.
I think so. Tesla was interesting. I actually thought about buying more Tesla yesterday, just because it was holding up so well the last couple of days. I mean, you want to talk about relative strength. When the S&P went down from 600 to the 576, look at Tesla in the same period. Yeah, the first day we're up at 426, but then for last 3 days, just hanging out. Didn't even make a new low yesterday, on the move. It couldn't take out yesterday's low where a lot of other stocks did. The relative strength was really good on Tesla. I did buy Micron. I bought back some of my Micron yesterday in the gap down. I know people are saying, well, wait for the gap fill, all the way to 90. Well, sometimes that happens, but look at October. When we pulled back, we didn't fill the gap. We only got into the gap and then it turned around. So they don't always have to fill the gap. So I rebought the Micron that I had sold. I had sold at 110 before the report. I was able to pick it up at $94 yesterday, which seemed like a pretty good re-entry point into something with new information that they're going to be a bigger part of NVIDIA. So, I mean, I do think Micron actually has, a potential to bounce back here if we get a stock market turnaround. Again, the market continues to go lower. All your longs are going to probably lose. I mean, it's just the way it is. But, I'm of the opinion this year is going to be choppy, not straight down. Like people are saying, oh, it's a bear market, Dennis, don't buy anything. Well, it's not yet. It's not even close to that. It's still just a choppy market. I don't know if we're going full bear here. I'm more about the chop. Yesterday gives me more proof that maybe my thesis is correct.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Nice bounce. New lows on the pre-market session here. Getting in the top
It's
of
ugly
yesterday.
right now here.
I'm sorry?
It's ugly right now, the market. It's like we're
Yep.
giving back here again. But I don't think it's all going to depend. Everything we're saying right now in the next 6 minutes is going to depend in PPI. So direction is still like people are positioning themselves. Even me, I'm a little bit long right now. I had to sell a little bit of stocks to get myself hedged here because I don't want to go long in the PPI. I don't want to go short in the PPI. Again, the long-term account, I'm always along, but in the trading account, I'm like selling a few stocks into the bounce here right now because I don't want to be long into this. What if the number's hot?
I think
Christian, how are you
Tesla's
positioning into this? Are
I
you?
think Tesla's a great one to watch. Like out of all, out of its group, the Magnificent Seven, or I call them Grade Eight, but that was the one stock that really kind of had some power. We talked about how it was a big value move yesterday, but Tesla was the one stock that actually, like, if you look at what happened, like in the last hour of trading, it was really bought. So, if this number, I mean, obviously we're leaking pretty decently here with ahead of this number, but we had the makings of possibly a turn yesterday. That election gap was filled yesterday in SPY. So
You said that. Yep.
a
Yep.
lot of
Yep.
people were looking for that. So Tesla's one of those names that you want to watch for some of the in my opinion, watching these names that stood out yesterday, as they could be the ones that, if this market can kind of stabilize, and we've had at this point about a 5% move to the downside. So the question is like, and I don't think anybody really knows this until we get this data out too, which might help, because everybody's been so concerned with with the possibility of inflation coming back up. But I think just finding some of these, sometimes there's little breadcrumbs that are left, and like, hey, that move in Tesla was really, to me, very interesting. So I'm watching 402 in Tesla, but that's definitely on my list today in terms of growth. I've got a lot of value names on my list today too, so I'm watching things like that. But I think are we going to continue to see rotation, or is it going to be kind of more of the same in some of these names that have been beaten up? Another topic which we haven't talked about yet is we've got JP Morgan and we've got all the banks reporting tomorrow. That's another group that most of them have been really kind of like lethargic. JP Morgan started to kind of pick up a little bit. It's kind of been hanging around. So I'm really interested to see what Jamie Dimon sometimes runs his own show with that conference call, and you don't know. Sometimes they have a very good number, the stock perks up, and then he comes on and says something negative. So I'm really interested to hear what he says about the economy, because I think if he's positive, you could see a nice move in the financials. Take a look at BlackRock too. BlackRock reports tomorrow. Like this might be, I was thinking like this might be a dentist stock, because it's really come down hard over the last week. Perhaps, I don't think BlackRock is going to have a bad quarter per se. So maybe this gets a bounce for tomorrow.
I mean, lots of considerations here. And again, we're going to need this PPI information to really, figure out, if, we're going to continue or not. And then the earnings. Fundamental news trumps technicals every single time. Like if you're looking at technicals 2 minutes ahead of a PPI number, you're probably doing it wrong. If you're looking at technicals, on a bank, obviously right before it reports earnings, you're probably doing it wrong as well. I like, your theory, your way you're doing it. You get the numbers, get the earnings numbers, were they good? And then try to get the setup on the technicals to match with that, Christian. So, I mean, we're obviously getting that information. I like to be long stocks ahead of reports, and then I sell them, right before they report, because there's that drift up into the earnings. That's always been a core strategy of mine. But 2 minutes here, 2 minutes. Do we have a preview? Does Brentster have the preview?
No, we're gonna go to Christian here with our preview real quick. Everyone, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You'll know when we go live, and also sign up for our recaps from the Brentster. Give us a preview here of this PPI number, Christian.
Yeah, so month over month, again, like this will be like, I hope it's an easier number. I mean, again, so 0.4 is what they're looking for. Month over month, 0.4, that's the month over month change. X food and energy, they're looking for 0.3. The year over year number, which again is just a compilation of the last months plus last 11 months plus the new data, they're looking for a 3.5%. So that's what we've got, and by the way, that's basically it for today for economics, and then tomorrow we'll have the CPI. So you got about 30 seconds to the number.
Yeah, 30 seconds to the number. We have Triple D going
Remember, keep
wide.
it on the TLT. TLT is down here today. A lot of times your bond traders are smarter than your stock traders. So that makes me nervous. That we're going in and the TLT is starting in the red going into the number. So just be cautious here I'm a little bit nervous here with the TLT starting in the red.
All right, TLT in the red. We just on the downside here. If they get a nasty feeling here, the way we went up yesterday. There's limited support here. We're still green on the session, so that's an important thing. Moments away. It looks like
That's
it's
good.
light. It's light. It's
Light.
light.
Point two. 0.2% is the number. I'll throw this in the chat for you guys.
It's good. TLT rallying too.
Yep. Boom, boom, boom. We just took out the pre-market high. Let's look at the TLT real quick. We got to change the chart here. The regular session, you get it pop in the TLT. We just took out yesterday's high with, the pre-market high pretty easily here. The next number coming up is your intraday high from Friday. Yeah, that comes in at 59.20 and a quarter. Let's see if we get that high print 17 and a quarter. They're loving it, man. December PPI, they're coming in. What we want, Christian. Can you break it down at all as we watch a major rally here on Wall Street?
Sure. So 0.2 versus 0.4, that's the headline number. The X food and energy also comes in much lighter than expected, 0 versus 0.3. X food and energy, I mean, all these numbers coming in a little bit lighter. So what a fake out that we got over the last half hour. Some people think that the numbers are always like leaked or something like that. I don't think so. The dollar right now is giving back gains, only up 10 basis points, and bonds are now up about 0.5%. That's the 30-year bond futures are up about 0.5%. So real nice move there. Take a look at your small caps because they are always the ones that move big on economics. They're up about 1.4%. That's a really nice move in small caps. Again, they were implying about a 1.3% move for the PPI today, and they're at that right now, up about 1.4%.
I think it just kind of, harkens back to what, we talked about, at the beginning of the year about, the way this market's going to be this year. It's going to, we could go up 20%. We could go up 20%. I don't feel like we're going to go down 20%. I just think we're just going to grind. And I think this is a good example. You got a big sell-off yesterday. Now you got the momentum to the upside. So, fade, Dennis. That was your theme with the to start your acronym, but
it's working like to a T. The stocks in my acronym aren't doing that great, but I tell you, the fade trade is working so well. Selling into the reps, buying into the dips. That's the fade trade. Holy crap. Nothing is working better than that right now. This is the contrarian's dream here right now, markets right now, where you're buying into weakness and selling into strength. Like, are you selling into this strength? No, not on this number. I won't. Like, people were asking me, are you shorting just on, right away? No. It's a good number. It's a light number. I would think about now, pick your levels. So the way I trade, get the information, then go look at the charts. We have the information. It's light. Where do we think the S&P could go? S&P, probably that 590 area again. So I think about SPY 590. That's where I'd probably be thinking about shorting the market here again. Not coming in here right away. You can't be early. Pick your points. Don't just short randomly every 30-point, pop. You got to pick your spot still too. So I like the 590 SPY. So another 40 handles higher.
This is the PPI. This is not the CPI, right?
True. Good point.
Yep. And then the other thing, and before we bring on our esteemed guest here, this number's not reflecting this rally. This is crude oil, folks. So 72 to 82 in a couple weeks. We're not, and we'll talk about this with Blue in a minute. When are we going to see that data flow through? It didn't flow through to this report. So with for no further ado here, we are going to go and we're going to bring on our inflation expert here, Blue Putnam, former economics director over there at the CME, my old stomping grounds. All right, we are bringing on Blue Putnam, former managing director there at the CME. Blue, are we getting too excited?
Yes.
Nice. Keep us in check, Blue. Keep us in check.
These numbers move around. Producer prices are a little more about goods. Tomorrow is more important. It's got services, a lot of services, so it's going to be a higher number. It's not going to be quite as light. But the reality is, the Fed's gone on hold. You got to get used to 10-year bond yields at 475. They could drift a little higher, they could drift a little lower, but get used to it. Nothing's changing until policy changes, which, by the way, will happen next month. And I don't mean the Fed.
What do you mean?
I mean immigration and tariffs. And those are big question marks.
So let's go right into that. Tariff talk. I mean, we're going to have a new administration that seems to be very much, about tariffs. What are your thoughts here? What does this mean? Like, does it bring back inflation? Because obviously if you're bringing tariffs in and goods are coming in and they're more expensive, it's hard for these companies to sell these goods at a loss. So, I mean, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I think we have to divide tariff analysis into two pieces. The transition, whatever happens when they do something, in the long term, where we settle out. In the I can tell you, transitions are always messy, and you got to be very careful. We know that in the long term, tariffs can, they contribute to inflation. But in the short run, they're going to disturb supply chains. They're going to disturb production. It might not be so good for GDP. And we already know that a lot of big box stores increased their imports in the fourth quarter because they were afraid of tariffs in the first quarter. By the way, if inventories go up, that's a higher GDP, but if imports go up, it's a lower GDP. So that's kind of a wash. But just warning you that, both tariffs and immigration policies could be transitionally negative for the economy before you get the inflation impact.
All right, let's talk about the impact of crude not being reflected here in this. How, we never know when do they take the readings and everything, but that's a substantial move. Talk about the move in crude, talk about moving some of the other commodities here, and how long that takes to filter through into these numbers.
Well, the crude move, we've had almost like $10, so it's a big move. And that will filter into retail gasoline prices in the first quarter. So the headline CPI, not for December, okay? That's the one that's going to come out tomorrow. That's not going to be impacted here. But if you're looking at February and March, you're going to have a little upward tick in the headline. That's not the core. They take out, the Fed doesn't heat their houses. They don't go out to lunch. They don't do a lot of things. So when they take out food and energy, you get a lower number. But that's going to be a tricky one because February and March are going to be probably not so light for CPI.
Immigration. Talk about the effect of immigration and on inflation, obviously less workers leaking here again, folks, man. What a pop and what about? Talk about immigration.
Well, there are three sectors that are in the crosshairs of immigration. So you've got agriculture, which depends a lot on immigration workers. You've got the tourist industry, restaurants, hotels, and you've got construction. And so if you disrupt these industries, the first thing that happens is they can't produce as much. The second thing that happens is they got to hire more workers, and that's where the hourly wages start to go up. But then there are not a lot of workers to hire because the job market is really tight already. We know that. We're at 4.1% unemployment. So the first quarter and the second quarter impacts are lower production, and the third and fourth quarter impacts are higher inflation. So, man, we're in serious transition analysis here.
Someone said they want to know where the 10-year is going.
The 10-year, I believe, is stuck between 4.5 and 5. Now, that's a range, and that's a pretty big range. But what I'm suggesting here is that nominal GDP, so you take real GDP, which is like between 2.5%, and you add inflation, which is 2.5, something like that, and you're at 4.5 to 5%, and that's the 10-year, and it's going to bounce around. But if you chase the bounces, you're just always going to be late. We're in a range until something happens big. And by the way, what something happens big means is the unemployment rate starts to rise. And I don't see that happening yet. I think most of the new policies are bargaining chips. I can't see 60% tariffs on China happening on January 20th. That's not going to happen. They're going to bargain with these things. And it's going to be slow. So, don't panic, but get used to these yields on the 10-year. They're not going away until we have a recession, and there's no recession in sight yet.
Hey, Blue, you mentioned with these numbers like the PPI, that came out this morning, and there is a lot of variation between like these month-over-month numbers, and I'm just kind of finding it interesting that the way that the market is kind of reacting to some of these numbers and the emphasis that is being put on some of these numbers. If you go back to the jobs report last Friday, where the number came in, it seems to be about the expectations. So this number for PPI this morning, they were looking for a very high number, 0.4. It's a very easy number to kind of, fall under. Similarly, the number on Friday, I thought that the jobs number that they were expecting only like $100,000 of gains. Like, I guess it's kind of just more of like a general question. And then I guess a two-part question is like, why are some of these like, I'm just questioning where these estimates are coming from and why the bar were so low for the jobs number.
You said that yesterday, Christian. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then why? And then number two is like the market seems to really be emphasizing inflation and concerns about inflation. Do you agree, or is that what the market is most fixated right now because of yields?
Yes, the market's definitely fixated on inflation, and that's because the unemployment rate's low and the job market's healthy. By the way, that jobs number was a legit surprise to the upside. The PPI number, that's all over the map, and I have a much wider band of lack of confidence. So this number is a little light, but it doesn't change. I mean, if you told me the PPI and asked me to be a better predictor of the CPI the next day, it wouldn't help at all. Right. So, and the people that saw that jobs number and then up their inflation forecast, they're not paying attention either, because we are going to get some lower jobs numbers in next year. They're going to be benchmark revisions. They come out in February. They're going to drop the whole number of jobs from last year, somewhere between 500,000 and 800,000. But it's going to be, the pattern won't change. So, at the end of the day, the Fed's just going to sit and wait. And they are looking at inflation because there's no recession in the data right now. So inflation is the number.
Gotcha.
Go ahead, Christian. You want to follow up with them?
Well, so are you? We've also seen the dollar. That's been the other thing that's been the topic. The latest topic of concern. Do you think that that's going to stay heightened because of tariffs, or do you think that there's something else that's going to possibly bring this dollar back in, or do you think it stays kind of heightened for a bit?
I think the dollar's strong for a while longer, but this is not a tariff view for me. This is a Fed view. If you look at where the expectations are for Fed funds, basically some people think there might be one cut. A bunch of people think no cuts. I've even heard maybe a hike from a few folks. We're not going anywhere from the Fed until the Fed gets a clearer view, like the rest of us, of course, of what's going to happen with the policy. So if the Fed stays put, the dollar stays strong. And Europe is not in that great a shape. They have a little lower inflation than the U.S. and but they got political risk all over the place because they don't have a strong leader in Europe right now. Nowhere, not in France, not in Germany, not in the U.K. Your strongest leader in Europe right now is in Italy, and if that's your base case, good luck. Okay.
Okay. All right, Blue. I want to throw a little curveball at you here. Not really a curveball, a little situation scenario analysis. What if you're tuning into the pre-market prep show for the first time? And you're a long-term investor and you're just like, I hear so much about inflation. I hear, I know it was running away and then I heard it was completely gone. If you just, for the layman investors, not for the active traders who get all their information listed at pre-market prep every day, like just a couple, like what should they be paying attention to? What would be a cause for concern, and what would be like, hey, we're out of the war, we don't, inflation's dead.
Well, the longer run causes of inflation, you need an easy monetary policy and you need an easy fiscal policy. We had both of those in the pandemic, big time. $5 trillion of fiscal stimulus and $5 trillion of quantitative easing. That's inflation. All of that's gone, and that's nothing like the 1970s. That's our period of inflation. That had a steady expansion of monetary policy. It had stagnation in the economy, so don't use the 70s. We're not there. The U.S. is a much more vibrant economy. We're somewhere between 2.5% and 3% inflation. We're not going to go higher than that. I can tell you that this new administration is not going to expand fiscal policy on the spending side. They might cut taxes or at least extend the old tax cuts, but that doesn't increase spending. So if they're not going to spend any more money and the Fed's going to stay at, where they are, a little bit above 4% on Fed funds, you don't need to worry about inflation long term. So I think what you have to do is adjust to the fact that this equity market is, in my view, it's pretty extended. Okay? And I don't think it's fully adjusted to 4 3/4, 10-year rates and so forth. And it probably hasn't fully adjusted to the uncertainty that's coming in the coming year. So I'm a little nervous about equities, but as a long-term investor, I would just go to sleep. As a short-term investor, there's some opportunities to trade.
Wow, Blue. You took that question, the words right out of out of my mouth. I wanted to say, for the equity investor that, where we're at. I mean, I think one thing that people just don't really have an appreciation for is the gains that we've had over, just so the last 2 years, or not even going back to the pandemic low. I mean, just major gains. But so let's just final question here, then we'll let you go. If the cooling stock market, inflation, where's your money? Put it in your mattress, or or you get those attractive rates and hope that inflation doesn't creep up too much and eat into your principal return.
I'm putting most of it in equities, a little bit in real estate, and a little bit in cash. And where I am not putting it is in private equity. The pendulum has swung. Private equity, these illiquid investments earned a premium for being long-term investments, but that was when rates were zero. Now liquidity is earning a premium. That's what people want. So I want to be in the publicly traded markets. Equities, cash, and real estate, depending on your risk tolerances. That's where I'm at.
Blue Putnam, consultant and former direct chief economist over there at the CME, joining us monthly here for the inflation data. Blue, I know you're on the road here, and glad that you made the arrangements to be with us. We really appreciate your insight. And I don't know, do I have to send you a new invite for next month, or can you just put it on your calendar?
You have to send me one, because if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen.
Okay. All right, Blue. Thank you very much. All right. Here we are. Me and Christian banging it out. Went up. Just missed that intraday high from Friday. Triple D. How you doing there?
I was trying to do some interview with Blue, and then I just had too many trades. I'm like, oh gosh. I mean, we're up, and then we started tanking a bit. Now we're trying to rally back here a little bit. So choppy morning session to go with a choppy year so far. It is a theme that continues to play out. I don't know. Like, it's going to be the crossroads. To Blue's point, and to your point as well, Joel, this is not CPI. This is not like the be all end all number. It's important though, and it is light. So like Blue says, his number's all over the place typically. So he's not putting a lot of weight into it. I think the market's putting, just wants the glimmer of hope here because it's been a pretty ugly few days. So it wanted a relief rally. It's getting a relief rally. If I was long and I had bought actually probably yesterday, I'd probably be selling into this. If I'm looking to initiate shorts, it's probably more the 590 area. So just setting up your points for it. But you could go to, the previous day's high, 85.95, on SPY. I don't know where we just got up to, but it looks like, it was maybe around that area. Where'd we get up to this morning?
Well,
did we get anywhere close to that 85.95 on SPY?
Well, you know what? Let me go to the after hours here because we had, I'm sure you observed it. We did. We pushed through it by quite a bit yesterday's high. But now as we're settling in here, oh yeah, yesterday's high was down at 81.75.
No, 2 days ago. Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
85.95 from 2 days ago.
Okay, we did get through that on that burst, but we settled down.
Keep that number in mind. Like I've learned
That's
that
a good number.
Again, my trading, I get the information. I look to different highs and lows from previous days. That's right from the Elconin textbook of technical analysis. Just looking at highs and lows from previous days. Looking at my 90-day, and a lot of times you see reversals at previous days' highs and lows. So it's not. A lot of people start with the technicals and then, build their fundamental thesis around the technicals. I do it the other way. I got a story, I got the fundamentals, and I look to the technicals to time the trade. That's kind of how I do it. I think, Christian, you kind of do it that same way too, do you not?
Yeah, I mean, another thing that I was looking at today too, of course, like, to answer your question, looking at the technicals, absolutely. I'm looking at what bonds are doing. We had an nice initial move in bonds, up about, TLT was up about 0.5%. It's kind of sitting in here flat. Mm-hmm. So, and it's actually, I see it now down a little bit. So for a sustained move, because I like to your point, we have CPI tomorrow, and the market really gets fixated on CPI. It's a nice initial reaction in the indices, but I think for follow through, what I would like to see for confirmation is, bonds even just go up a little bit. We've seen too many days where bonds have been started the day where they're up about 20 basis points or 30 basis points, and they kind of leak lower. So you're seeing that so far. It's almost like bonds are not. They're not grasping they're not buying it in terms of this number this morning. So I think this number for now, and kind of going back to some stocks to watch, I would keep an eye on what Tesla's doing. I would keep an eye on what some of the momentum names are doing, because those are some of the biggest knee-jerk reactions that I see pre-market. But I'm watching Tesla, but I think if bonds can't hold in here, then you might begin to kind of see a little bit of a fade of this move, and the market might go back to kind of waiting a little bit for tomorrow's data.
It's going to be choppy. So I think, again, if you're looking at breakouts and, you're looking at this and you're like, okay, well, we've reversed. I mean, I think chasing moves when we just came from 575 SPY and we just tacked on 90 points. As much as I felt like yesterday morning, if you were selling it here, you're doing it backwards. You're coming here loading up stocks, you're probably doing it a little bit backwards here too. So just keep that in mind when you're coming in. We've come a long ways from where we were. So I think I'm more cautious here with the buys, although I do like to turn around the quantum stocks potential.
Could we have seen the high to low of the day already? I don't know. That's only what, a 25, 45 point range. Now, the average daily range is, including the 24-hour session, has been much greater than that. Dennis, any other particular moves like the banks? I'm looking at JP Morgan.
Yeah.
That's still in the red. Now, those, do we just real quick? I mean, we got a gauntlet of, forget, keep this in mind, folks. Yeah, we have CPI tomorrow. Okay. In the morning, we have JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and Bank of New York Mellon.
Yeah. We have a plethora, a smorgasbord of bank earnings coming this week. Because then Thursday, Bank America and MTB and Morgan Stanley and USB and PNC and Friday, regionals, STT, RF, CFG, HBAN. I mean, you're getting the bank earnings. This is bank earnings week. So we're going to have a lot more information coming in. The banks are cheap from a valuation perspective. They're actually not even really expensive relative to themselves. They're always somewhat lower PEs, but they're relatively cheap too. So, I mean, and they've done fairly well here. It's just looking at the charts, like some of these, have done pretty good. I mean, you got to be selective. Not all of the banks, been like JP Morgan, which is near all-time highs, Goldman Sachs as well. But I mean, how do we set up? Christian, I want to throw it to you because you always look at the setup going into earnings here. The banks have been somewhat, just kind of hanging out going into these earnings reports. So I'm not sure the setup is really clean either direction because they've kind of just been going sideways for a couple months.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been also like a downward trajectory to XLF. So we started to talk about that right before the PPI number. I think JP Morgan is going to be the one that's going to set the tone. And I think that if JP Morgan can say something positive about the economy, I think it might actually be, the good news might actually be good news. Like if they're starting, if Jamie Dimon comes on and starts talking about how the consumer is doing, whether or not we've seen, whether or not they're seeing like credit losses pick up or something like that, because again, he seems to have that effect. It depends on his mood for tomorrow. But JP Morgan, like that conference call is something, and the headlines from the conference call is something that I'll definitely be watching because I would like to see these banks come back up. The financials were XLF was a big leader in 2024, and it just kind of ran out of steam there once we got to December. So that's one of the questions that I have for this year is, are the financials going to come back? A couple of my favorite trades for last year were the private equity type companies, and they've really kind of taken a hit. They've kind of moved back, and like KKR is one that I've been watching, which has filled the gap to the downside for the election gap. And so these are names that I'm starting to kind of put on my watch list as they've come in. We talked a little bit about the industrials, and they have perked up. This would be another group, but I think it's going to need the driver of that earnings. I think also, one of the things that we've been talking about too is just the fact that this market dip kind of coming into earnings, I think, is welcomed. And I think Blue made a good point with that, where he, has basically said, hey, equities have been up a lot. So, seeing about a 5% pullback in things, I think just, sets the playing field. Netflix reports on Tuesday. I think that's also going to be, really kind of set the tone. If you look at Netflix, like it's also come in quite a bit. What do you guys think about this name for earnings next week?
I mean, it's had the big run up in October, November, December, and now it's come down. So maybe it does set up better. I mean, you got the new Squid Games in there, which probably doesn't hurt. Obviously, the company's been firing on all cylinders with everything they've been doing over at Netflix. Even to the football, obviously the fight. I mean, it's been, fairly impressive, what Netflix has accomplished, just turning themselves into, basically a TV network they're trying to take themselves into here, which, at $15 a month sounds pretty darn good. So, I mean, I think subscribers numbers are probably going to be okay as well. The pullback to be bought, I mean, valuation's been stretched. But I don't know if it matters at this point. I think it sets up pretty well into earnings, actually, Christian.
I'm just looking at it technically, and man, it's been higher 5 out of the last 6 months. It's been higher. I don't know. I wouldn't buy a dip, but I would sell a rip. Working on a big monthly red candle here. Last month's close 891.32. So if it gets one of those crazy 40, 50 point up moves, I'd be selling into it. On the other hand, if they started to crush it down towards 800, I wouldn't be as interested. We got 2 minutes here, and yesterday we got a lot of super stickers in the chat. We love that. That help keeps the lights on here at PreMarket Prep. So if you want to throw one in there, throw 1 or 2 tickers in. To do that, we can end the show today with a couple stocks coming from the chat if you guys want to do that. If not, we can just talk about tomorrow's guest, Jim Tassoni. He's the CEO of Armor Wealth Strategies, who is getting a little cautious on the market here. Martin Contreras, we'll go with the T-Doc, even though we didn't get a super sticker for it. Up 47 cents here. That's on the partnership with Amazon. It's not a bad thing to be mentioned with Amazon. You did get up to 1080 earlier this morning, so you want to see follow through that area. Also, you have a couple daily highs, so you have confluence with the daily highs here at 1079 and 1088. So that's what
One
you're
thing
looking
I'll
at.
say, and Teladoc, not exactly what, in the JPM Healthcare Conference, but, just talking health stocks. JPM Healthcare Conference has kind of been quiet. I mean, we had the merger, Johnson Johnson, ITCI on Monday, but, really, it's kind of been overall kind of quiet. And XBI, I had the XBI on multiple times, it's been disappointing. So really didn't, pan out here. It had a decent, bounce back yesterday from the lows, but overall, I'd say kind of, disappointing. And that with that always is a concern, is there going to be a hangover, where, you didn't see any action here, not well, you didn't see a lot of action in the XBI in itself around this conference. So I somewhat worry, that the catalyst is now gone. Is there going to be a hangover here? That's the question.
Okay, back
Grove,
down
thank
here.
you very much for the super sticker. We appreciate it.
Who did we get the super sticker from?
Grove Lane. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Throw a ticker. When you give a super sticker, throw a ticker in there too, and we'll cover it for
Well,
you.
that's why we do it.
That keeps us going. When you give us
I
super
don't think we
stickers, we'll
can
keep going.
I don't think we can do ticker time anymore unless we get super
Ah, no, we always
Yeah,
go.
Dennis, you got to get a little bit tougher here.
We got to get tougher. We have no money.
Yeah.
We had AB had to leave us because we weren't paying him, but he's gonna come. He's gonna be working part-time with us still.
Okay. Well, did Grove Lane give a stock or just the super
No,
sticker?
I don't think he did. So we'll take RTX. Richard was the next one after him. So after the super sticker, RTX. Christian, I want to throw it to Christian, then we're gonna let Christian go because this is what Christian was talking about pre-market. Is some of these, beaten up defense stocks starting to show some life?
Yeah, there's a mention about EMR was mentioned. That's another name that's come in. I like that. I'm sorry, I'm not showing my charts right now, but I would watch 115 as a good level to trade against in EMR. That name has made a really nice move. Also, NVIDIA, I think that's a good one to kind of look at too. That one also has come back down to the lows from the middle of December. I would watch to see if that can hold. You had a nice hold yesterday of the 131 level, so I'm watching 131 and 134, right? And that would be a good indicator. A couple other names in the semi space too that I have my eye on is Broadcom, which it didn't do much yesterday, but that's a name that had I want to see if it's going to emerge as a leader. I'm watching to see if that one could hang in there. I know AMD is one that you guys look at a lot, but I'm watching to see if Broadcom can get above 230. One more name too in the semi space that I'm watching is Marvell Technologies, which actually looked pretty good yesterday. I want to see that one. That one's on my list too of a possible name that could show some strength. Another one that had strong earnings.
Lilly just came out with guidance, Eli Lilly here, and I just want to talk LLY. Got a big pop. The algos can't help themselves. But the story is when ice cold here, for the weight loss drugs. And interesting what we've seen is stocks that have been, really coming out with really good guidance, pop initially, and then the pops don't hold. Well, this Lilly pop, Joel, can you go up and just show how high it went there?
It did. It's just a single stick. It went to 809.49.
We just went red. It was up for about a minute, and they just went red on it. So I mean, this is the market we're in right now. Where take the gains. It's going to be the Steve Miller market, Steve Miller band. Take the money and run. So when you get up in a stock, it's the type of market where it seems to be prudent to take the money and run, because if you don't take it, the market takes it from you.
And I mentioned on the pre-market show that Lilly also came out. They said they were coming out with a new weight loss drug. next year, this year, and the thing didn't even move at all. So they went back to the PR room and they said, "Hey, we didn't move off that headline. What else you got
Let's
for
raise guidance.
us?" Let's raise guidance.
Honestly, you think that doesn't happen, but it does, Joel. And it's a great point where they're pissed off. Like when they come out with good news and they see the stock go down on it, the company's pissed off. And don't kid yourself. There's some meetings in corporate boardrooms saying, "What the hell? I mean, we're doing well." Well, tell them we're doing well. Come up with some guidance. I don't think it's coincidence, Joel. Like when you get disappointing move off the jugs, you think they're just running the company. They're running the stock price too. So don't kid yourself. That actually happens.
I just want to give close the show with a big hats off to both Dennis and Christian doing a great job today. Christian, less than 10 minutes ago, you were talking about the bond market here and the TLT, and that you really wanted to see that hold in there. Well, that hasn't been the case here. So I think people got excited about the PPI number. Rah rah rah, get out the pom poms. But I think that, reality is the CPI number is more important. Folks, 5 minutes overtime, working overtime again here on Pre-Market Prep. If you have not subscribed to this channel or you have not hit the like button, please do so. Also, if you want to get the daily wrap from the Brentster with all these great tidbits, Brent's going to put the link in the chat and you will get it. It's something we're trying out for the remainder of the month. So wrapping it up here. Fun show on this Tuesday. Everyone have a good day.